Nolan Grayson was not born. He was engineered. For thousands of years, he served as the Viltrumite Empire's finest soldier, a race of conquerors who believe strength is the only virtue. Their mission: subjugate every planet in the universe, weaken defenses from within, prepare them for absorption. Nolan was ruthless, efficient, unquestioning. He had destroyed civilizations, ended species. He had never hesitated, never doubted, never loved. And then they sent him to a little blue planet called Earth. They did not know it yet, but that decision would destroy everything they had built. On Earth, Nolan was given a cover identity. He became a superhero, Omni-Man, the world's greatest protector. He saved lives publicly while cataloging humanity's weaknesses privately. The plan was simple: gain their trust, learn their defenses, then tear it all down. But something went wrong. He met Debbie, a human woman, fragile, mortal, insignificant by every Viltrumite measure. And yet, she was kind in a way he had never encountered. She looked at him not as a weapon, but as a man. And slowly, impossibly, Nolan Grayson began to feel something he had spent millennia suppressing. They had a son, Mark, half human, half Viltrumite. Nolan held this tiny creature and felt something crack inside his chest. He coached Little League. He attended parent-teacher conferences. He sat on the couch with Debbie and watched sitcoms he pretended not to enjoy. For 20 years, he lived two lives: the Viltrumite agent and the suburban father, the conqueror and the husband. And for a while, he almost convinced himself the two could coexist. But empires do not forget their soldiers, and debts to the throne always come due. Imagine living with a secret that would destroy everyone you love if they knew. Now imagine that secret is who you really are. Nolan's entire existence on Earth was a lie. Every laugh at the dinner table, every kiss goodnight, every game of catch, all of it was built on a foundation of planned betrayal. This is what makes his story so devastating. He was not faking his love for Debbie and Mark. He genuinely loved them. But he was also genuinely planning to help enslave their entire species. Both things were true at the same time, and living with that contradiction nearly destroyed him. The Viltrumite Empire is a philosophy made flesh. The strong dominate the weak. Mercy is weakness. Love is a liability. Every Viltrumite is born into a purpose they did not choose. Follow orders from a throne you have never seen. Questioning the mission is treason. Individuality is death. Kafka never wrote about alien empires, but he would have recognized this world instantly. It is the ultimate bureaucratic nightmare. An endless machine of violence where the individual is crushed by a system they cannot escape and did not create. Nolan was the perfect soldier because he never asked why. The day came. Nolan's mission activated. He was ordered to eliminate Earth's defenses. And Earth's defenses were the guardians of the globe. His friends, people he had fought beside for years, people who trusted him, invited him to their homes, met his wife, played with his son. Nolan called them to a meeting, and when they arrived, he killed them all. Methodically, brutally, without hesitation. He drove his fist through the immortal's chest, crushed Darkwing's skull, broke War Woman's neck with the same hands that had clapped at Mark's baseball games. Mark discovered the truth. His father was not a hero. He was an agent of planetary destruction. When Mark confronted him, Nolan did not deny it. He tried to explain, to recruit. You are a Viltrumite, Mark. These people live 70 years and die. We live for millennia. They are pets. But Mark refused. So Nolan did the only thing a Viltrumite soldier knows when faced with insubordination. He beat his own son, drove him through buildings, through a mountain, through a subway full of innocents. And as Mark lay broken and bleeding, Nolan said the most devastating thing a father can ever say. What is 17 more years? I can always start again. Make another kid. This line is unbearable not because it is cruel, but because it is honest. Nolan reveals Viltrumite logic in its purest form. A human child is an 18-year project. A Viltrumite lives for thousands. Mark was an experiment, a contingency. Nolan was willing to discard him like a draft. But here is what destroys you. As he says this, Nolan is crying. He does not want to do it. He performs Viltrumite duty while his human heart shatters. He is both abuser and victim of his own programming. Nolan did not kill Mark. At the last moment, he could not. The human father won. And that victory destroyed the Viltrumite soldier. He had failed his empire, brutalized his son, murdered his friends. There was nothing left. So he flew, away from Earth, into the cold silence of space. He drifted for months, years, carrying the weight of unforgivable acts. Kierkegaard wrote that the self is a relation that relates itself to itself. Nolan could no longer relate to himself. The Viltrumite and the father had torn each other apart. What remained was neither, just a void moving through darkness. Nolan found his way to a black hole. He intended to fly into it, to end everything, not from weakness, from the weight of what he had become. Albert Camus said the only serious philosophical question is suicide. Is life worth living when your values collapse? When your identity dissolves? Nolan's answer was almost no. But something stopped him. Not hope. Not faith. The refusal to let his last act be surrender. Camus wrote, "We must imagine Sisyphus happy." Nolan had to imagine himself capable of becoming someone he had never been. That is the absurdist leap toward the possibility of meaning. Nolan fled to a distant planet called Thraxa. There, impossibly, he started again. He took a new mate, had another child, tried to build something from the ashes of everything he had destroyed. But the Viltrumite Empire found him. They captured him, imprisoned him, judged him for the crime of becoming human. And Nolan did something no Viltrumite had ever done. He chose his family over his empire. He chose love over duty. He chose to be the father he had failed to be the first time. Not because he was strong enough, because he had finally learned what weakness had to teach him. Nolan returned to Earth. He stood before Mark not as a conqueror, but as a broken man asking for something he had no right to ask for. And Mark, impossibly, began to forgive him. Not because Nolan earned it, because Mark chose to. This is what the philosophers miss. Redemption is not a transaction. It is a gift. Nolan could not undo the blood on his hands. He could not unbreak his son's bones. He could only spend every day after trying to become someone worthy of the forgiveness he received. And that is the hardest thing anyone can do. That is what it means to change.